So first, I'm going to ask a question. Who's ever actually contributed to an open source machine learning software? Wow, OK. So I was thinking there'd be more, but keep your hand up, please. And did anybody ever tell you not to? This is crazy. OK, at least one person knows what I'm feeling. So 9 years and 9 months ago, I was working on a little project called TensorFlow, specifically TensorFlow serving. And this was the open source way that you're going to serve models and package them up and share them. And many of my peers, in fact, most that I talked with, thought I was crazy. They said, why are you doing this? Who's going to want to deploy models? This is something you do in research and in the lab. And so I'm going to share a little background and get into the content. But things have gone really well in the last 10 years for machine learning. So I'm Noah Fiedel. I lead a research group at DeepMind. And I'm going to start with a history of some disruptive innovations in AI and machine learning. So I'll just call out a couple, since I've been mostly involved in language. We have Word2Vec and Seek2Seek at the top, which if you haven't seen these were open research that was conducted at now Google DeepMind, but previously Brain and DeepMind. And these were all open sourced and given out as gifts to the research community and in many cases the trained models to the world. And then fast forward, I mentioned TensorFlow serving. So that was how we packaged up and deployed models. And then we had BERT, which is missing, and the text-to-text transfer transformer. Hopefully people know what T5 is. This model has more than 20,000 variants and papers and things people have done with it. If you haven't seen this open research and open community, the research ideas and passion and inspiration from the community truly made this worth way more than what we put into it in the beginning. And so really, the core point of my talk is we should be contributing to this ecosystem. It's really important. Then later, one thing I'll highlight here is when we were developing PaLM, our first super large language model, we realized we didn't have a good way to measure it. So we made a large benchmark with the community called Big Bench. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Gemma, our open models that we've released to the world. So I mentioned Google DeepMind. You've probably heard of it. What you might or might not know is that it was the merging of a couple of large research labs. So I was initially in Brain, that had the less polished but really cute and fun logo. We really loved it. And DeepMind. And we all came together in this kind of mega research lab. And we were figuring out our culture. But thankfully, we're still very much in support of open research. And to just emphasize that, we publish a lot, we get a lot of citations, we put out lots of papers. I think as a field, we publish a little bit less in this now very excited, high energy space, but we still publish a lot. And then a lot of what we do ends up in AI-enabled and powered products. So these are some of the many from Google. But we have this great connection with our product side, but we also publish. All right, so who's seen this slide before? OK, a little more than before. So hopefully we're all familiar with this. We were really, really excited, and by we I mean the community and my research lab. We were all excited to scale 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And scaling meant scaling in parameters and scaling in lots and lots of RAM and flops, basically. And so that's where we trained the 540 billion param PaLM-1 model. But I think if you've been paying attention, you've been seeing that things have been changing. We used to train to convergence. Then we found the chinchilla optimal schedule for training. Then we trained more and more beyond chinchilla because people actually spend a lot on inference. And now we're all seeing that post-training and inference time scaling is really taking off. And that's where there's a lot of research, a lot of chaos happening. One thing that's really nice, and I think super important for the open research community here, is that research in post-training and inference time scaling is far, far cheaper, and you can do it on models other people have trained and released. So pretty exciting. If you're thinking about this, please share your ideas. Please keep publishing. All right, and that brings me to Gemini, which might seem like an odd choice to present in a talk about open research. We do publish tech reports for all of the big Gemini model releases. And one thing I wanted to share here is I think there's a really, really nice combination where Geminis are internal to our lab. It's our focal point of getting all of our best ideas into one model. And then we can take a lot of those ideas and distill them down into open models that we release to everybody called Gemma. And because I mentioned inference time scaling, I'll just call out a couple of the capabilities of Gemini so you get very, very long context, improved thinking, tool use, enhanced performance, and all of these across the board have increased performance. And that brings us to Gemma. So anyone use Gemma? I hope so. Woohoo! All right, a bunch of us. This is great. So I've been, for my whole career, a supporter of open source, and this has just grown and grown with machine learning. Gemma are the decoder models from DeepMind. And one I'm going to actually talk about is not so much the Gemma models, but two of the variants that I find just super, super compelling and are going to enable and power this ecosystem. So take a look at these and also take this as an invitation that you can contribute to the Gemma ecosystem. So the first one is Shield Gemma. So if you've seen some of the faux pas that are happening across people that launch Gen AI-powered products, if you've seen some of the bugs that go out in products, some of the challenges that we have as a community doing things like content moderation, one of the very, very common things that labs are starting to do and products are starting to do is they'll have a policy model that will check, is this user input safe? Is the model generation safe? Is this something that I should be showing people or should be maybe escalating for a moderation flow? And so what we did is we released a variant called Shield Gemma. This is an instruction-tuned variant of Gemma that's now fully released. Anybody can use it. You can use it as is to follow one kind of common out-of-the-box set of policies. And if you have a different set of policies for your application, you can fine-tune it. We're really excited to see the kind of variation and customization land in the community and what people build on top of Shield Gemma. The next one is, hold on. Hold that video for just a second. So text only is really interesting. That's where my team and I have done most of our research, but there are lots of people, rightly so, interested in different kinds of multimodal inputs, vision language models, robotics, other kinds of visual understanding. And so one of the variants we're really, really excited about is called PaliGemma. PaliGemma is a hybrid of the original Gemma text encoder along with, I think it's the Siglip 400M vision encoder from the Pali team. And what I'm actually going to share is not highlighting the really great stats and performance of PaliGemma 2, but what one really interesting startup is doing with PaliGemma and extending it further for their environment and their data. Can anybody hear the sound? OK, I'll just turn the sound off. Trust me, there's cool sound. This is a real, not an animation, but there's actually sounds of the robots doing things. So this is the Physical Intelligence, or Pi company. They've raised $400 million at a $2 billion valuation. And they're using PaliGemma with their own extension on top of the model's architecture and the training data, where they've added a few hundred million params to customize and learn the action representation and controls for the robots. So this is pretty fantastic. They're getting all the benefits of a text and video input for their model, but then also customizing with their data, and ultimately getting robots with policies that can do pretty complex dexterous manipulation tasks. If you haven't seen robots do this before, it's because it's really, really, really hard. So I'm personally just very thrilled to see a startup in the community doing this. It's not only happening at the top labs, and it's also just a wonderful example of really extending one of these models richly and doing something that couldn't be done out of the box. So yet another task, they're making coffee. Who doesn't like folded T-shirts and coffee? It's, especially coffee. All right. So just in summary, we have seen more than 500 integrations from the community, 100 million plus and rising downloads of Gemma. And so far, we've seen 70,000 fine-tuned measured variants floating around on the different model gardens. So pretty spectacular. We're excited to see this. If you are thinking about contributing to the ecosystem, please, please contribute. It doesn't have to be to Gemma. We love seeing systems like Olama that are supporting all the models. So contribute wherever is best for you, where you have the most context, the most code familiarity. If you want to try out Gemma or Gemini, go to aistudio.google.com. And let's keep making open models and open research happen. So thanks a lot.
Any questions?
Yeah, questions.
where someone can still contribute effectively as independent researcher?
So the question was, are there areas where an independent researcher can contribute? And I think absolutely yes. We're still seeing this. I think you can contribute with novel evals, novel insights, novel post-training inference time experimentation. Can be done at quite efficient sizes of models and data, like on your own workstation, and, or with some of the free TPU collab scales and stuff like that. Yeah. Good question. Please go for it. We're paying attention to papers from everywhere, so.
Yeah. It seems like scaling laws really favor the big labs. So if you're not working in one of those, it's really hard to feel the AGI.
Certainly for pre-training. And maybe for industrial, post-training. But there are interesting post-training things still coming out from all scales.
I've been a huge user of TensorFlow survey back in the days. I was wondering if you have what Google's been kind of working around, or any kind of frameworks around like serving these 2B, 7B, like both learning models. Yeah.
So the question is about frameworks for serving these smaller models. So what we've tried to do with Gemma, our approach is to support kind of all of the main top frameworks, and to optimize our model sizes for what's going to fit on common hardware that developers have. But we're actually being a little bit agnostic about building yet another framework, because there's good ones out there. Yeah. Good one. Question in the back.
So how do you think about the intelligence explosion, and as it relates to open or closed source? Do you think it's possible at all for models to push out the next one in open source code?
Ooh. So the question is about the intelligence explosion, and will open models get there? Is that kind of the...
Yeah, so maybe do you think it's plausible that something like that will happen? And I guess how likely is it it's going to come from the open source code?
This is the really tough question. I believe very, very passionately that open models are going to help us do the research and build a community to get there. I'm not really sure what those final innovations will be that get us to intelligence explosion or AGI. Yeah, it's a good question. If you have thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So.
I have so many thoughts.
Okay. Afterwards, yeah.
Extending it is pretty compute extensive, right? But Google has lots of TPUs. Do we get like a long context Gemma?
Questions about a longer context Gemma, and that's certainly been a top feedback from the community, even my own experiments with it, and we're working on many things to make Gemma 3 better. It's actively cooking is kind of all I can say. Yeah. The question is my thoughts on decentralized open source AI. I don't think I have really a strong thought there yet. Still thinking about it. Yeah, it's a good one, though.
Worth thinking about.
Absolutely worth thinking about, definitely. I can't wait till I have an agent that can talk to other agents and get things done. So however that happens, I'm excited. Yeah. Great. Any last questions? Or I think I'll hand it over.